Alright, yesterday I was trying to make this Cubism video, but it didn't work as I didn't check my memory cards, and today I'm going to do a second attempt. Hopefully this time I'll create something good too, or something better than previously. It's going to be a really nice exercise. Alright, let's quickly look what Cubism is. This movement started in 1907 with two artists, Pablo Picasso and George Braque. The photography was growing, and that's why painters didn't need to recreate people, places and objects realistically anymore. Instead, they were trying to explore new ways of looking at subjects. The movement started with this painting, De Mademoiselle d'Avignon by Pablo Picasso. You can see the influence of African art. The faces looks like African mask. Cézanne influenced on Cubism too. You can always notice some objects is shifting from their position. There is no traditional perspective, and everything we're looking at, we're looking at it at different angles. By 1911, lots of other artists joined the movement, and here we can see some other works. Hopefully now you have an idea what Cubism is, so let's start and work on our painting. Our first step is to take our picture, look at it, and find some simple shapes. You also want to add some objects to make your picture interesting. So for example, I added these palm trees, and then I added the rocket, and the tennis ball and the bench. And then I was trying to connect the background with the figure, so you can't really notice when one starts and the other ends, and it's all kind of like connected together. Before we start, we attach our paper to the board, and now we'll start our watercolor part. Cubism paintings usually have really limited palettes, so my main colors this time will be the quinacridone sienna that I'm using right now, and I mix it with quinacridone gold, a little bit of alizarin, and I'm applying it everywhere where we can see her skin. For darker tone, I'm making a mix of the same orangey color that I used for my skin, plus I'm adding some Perlian violet and some ultramarine to make it darker. And then I'm kind of simplifying again, trying to squint my eyes and find those darker shapes, the shadow shapes. But remember, it's Cubism, so we don't need to be too realistic here. And if I need to make the tone even darker, I just drop in a little bit of Payens gray, and here this is like a darkest area. We always need to think about value and our darkest areas and lightest areas to create the contrast. And contrast is always really good for your picture and makes it appealing and interesting. Alright, keep working on the skin tone, and I'm using my main mixture again, but I'm adding a little bit of alizarin color in it. Just again, so you play with the color. Watercolor that's why it's so nice that you can mix it while you're working, and it's always more interesting when you play with a couple different colors while you're doing your skin tones. So you can add a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, a little bit of Perlin violet, for example. You can see I'm kind of making one side of the hand darker, and it's also something you can see on paintings of cubists. Okay, let's start working on the hair. That will be our darkest tone. So I'm adding to my dark brown mixture that I made before even more Payne's gray. For the grass, I'm using the mixture of ultramarine with quinacridone gold. And again, we're trying to play with the colors. So in some points, maybe you add more ultramarine. In some areas, maybe a little bit more yellow color. And remember, you also can make darker areas and lighter areas by adding some clean water. Another color I like to add when I don't need super dark gray tone, instead of Payne's gray, I like to add lavender, and you can see it kind of like purpley color, so it gets you a really nice gray color too. Some washes we do here is just a flat wash, and flat wash it's when your shape is just the same color. But in some areas we can use gradated wash, so when it's going from darker color towards lighter color, or when we jump from one color into another color. You can see how I'm adding here a different color, and then my wash starts with more green and ends with a little bit more orangey color. For the sky, I'm using lavender, and I'm kind of going around those palm trees right now. I'm applying the color on top of the hair and some part of the grass to connect my background with my figure. And the process when you apply one color on top of another, it's called layering, and it's also a really popular technique in watercolor. While the layer is still wet, or where the wash is still wet, I can drop in some the same color, just a little bit thicker mixture to create more contrast towards the palm trees. Okay, now the sky is dry and I can start working on the palm trees. I'm adding some green, again playing with some different shadow, a little bit of more blue or a little bit more yellow color. So it's just an interesting wash. And you always can drop colors while it's still wet. You can drop a little bit of yellow or blue, and again it will create a really nice effect. Okay, now when we have all the color on the paper, we can start working on our values. So let's get some shadows. Here you can see I'm making the skin tone a little bit darker by applying a darker skin tone over top of the first layer, and here on the hand too. And also I'm thinking about this shape, so I'm trying to create this movement, kind of those circles, that connected shapes that go through the whole picture, not just the background, but background and figure, they connected to each other. Alright, adding more shadows here from this tank top and underneath the tank top, a little bit again on the skin tone, a little bit darker shadows. And let's touch this white areas too with some lavender, so it doesn't look too flat. Alright, we're almost done. Let's add some elements here. So I'm grabbing my rigger brush and really tiny lines with dark color, and I'm using Payan's gray and a little bit of quinacridone sienna, just so it's not too cool. And I'm just drawing this African mask-alike face feature. Really simple. Also, I'm adding some lines, some contour lines, as that was a popular thing in Cubism art too, and some lines just to connect my shapes and make them more obvious. Adding more color on top of my big shapes to emphasize direction of movement and connection between background and the figure again. And we are almost done. Let's add some white lines here for the highlights and also correct some white shapes that may be not as perfect anymore. Usually in watercolor we don't use white often, but for tiny details, yeah, no problem. White gouache would always help you. And here's our final work. Yeah, you can see these shapes. We created shapes that helps us to feel the movement and connection. Here I use that stamp that I ordered from Vistaprint, but be careful if you decide to order it. Make sure you let it dry really good because it's easy to smudge it, especially in the beginning. I hope you like this video. I hope you will try to do your own picture too. Use your imagination. It's always such a great and fun process to create. And stay tuned for my future videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye!